For my 15 minutes to quilt, I'm going to go back in time to a time before I was even born, in 1857. And I'm going to be working on my 1857 quilt. It's a quilt that's made up of applique designs. Today I'm going to work on putting together one of those blocks. Welcome back to Quilt in Color. My name is Shalina. I'm really happy that you're joining me today, and I hope that you get a chance to sew today so that you can enter to win prizes. Let's get started. Okay, so let's take a look to see what's in the 1857 box. All sorts of random things here. We've got pattern. There's some fabric that's been fused. A lot of fabric that hasn't been fused. There's some variety of reds, greens, yellows, and blues. There's also patterns for this 1857 quilt. This is a pattern that came from Sentimental Stitches in 2017. All sorts of beautiful patterns, and a lot of these I haven't made yet. There's some fabric. Move this out of the way so I can see inside. And then these are some blocks that I've made already. Last year we worked on this. I believe we worked on this block. It's not very circular, but I think that's okay. And here's some other blocks. In my video last year, I'm pretty sure that I showed you all of these blocks, so I'm not going to take the time to do that again. As you can see, there's quite a number of blocks that have already been done. Most of them looks like they have not been appliqued down. I'm going to be using a machine stitch to stitch these down. And then I think there's some that were. I know that there's some that were. Let me find one that so you can see that. So here's one that has some stitches on it. This is the stitch that I'm going to be using for all of them. What I did was, once I had a number of blocks done, then I went back and put the thread in the machine, and I sewed everything that was, anything that could use a yellow color. I just sewed all the yellows at that time. And then later I'll just do a different color, and that way I don't have to keep switching out for every block. I can just switch out for a group of blocks at a time. Here's what it looks like on the back. Okay. So the other things that are in here, just more fabric for the background. I'm just using a white background. There's some more blocks. Some of these I think I think the ones in the bottom of the box are ones I've already used. And then there's just some more fabric. And originally when I first pulled out this box, I was wondering why I didn't fuse all the fabric. That way it'd just be easy for me to just put them on the quilt. But then I chose which block I was going to do today. Let me show you this one. This one. I decided to work on this final block. There's 64 blocks in this quilt. And I decided to work on this one even though I'm nowhere near. Even though I don't have nearly this many blocks done. I have a lot of blocks that are left over. And what I decided to do is to make this block. And I chose some fabric for it that's already fused. So I have this red fabric that I can use for the date. And then I have this green fabric, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to fit if I put it on a diagonal. And then I can get the leaves out of the extra here. But then I realized, okay, if I do this, I don't really have a good way to trace the pattern onto the fabric, because this is now too thick for me. The fabric is going to keep me from being able to see the letters. So generally speaking, what I'm doing is I'm tracing the pattern first and then fusing it down, so that way the pattern is available to me. But now that I'm using this fabric, there's a different plan. I'm going to have to come up with a plan B. And so what I did was I reprinted this pattern, and I did it with a fast one because I don't need to, I'm only going to be cutting this up anyway, so I don't really need it to be really easy to read. As long as I can see the markings fine. And I can. And so what I'm going to do is just place the pattern here so that I can just cut it out. Now that I'm looking at this, I think I'm going to need to turn over the pattern. I know that I need to turn over the pattern because the fabric is going to be this way, and I need to be cutting it this direction. Okay, so first thing I need to do is to trace over the pattern so that I can read it upside down. Let me get something to write with. I have pencil and scissors here. I can see this pattern okay from here. If you have trouble seeing this, you can use a light box or a window to get some light. But right now I can see this pattern just fine. And then if you notice, the pattern is not really really straight. It's stylized, and it has some lumps and curves and things that you would not expect, which is actually a really good thing, because if you do make a mistake, it's no big deal. It's just part of the design, and you can make it your way. Now, of course, you could put the current year or the year that you expect to finish on here, maybe your birthday, whatever you want, instead of the 1857, but I'm going ahead and doing the 1857. This is a really interesting pattern because there's so many different styles of blocks in here, and so I don't know if different people participated and made these blocks, or maybe a group of people. It does look like there was a group of people who worked on it. There's some tools in here too, and I don't know if maybe somebody donated things, like it's a bride, like a couple just got a gift. It could also be maybe an auction for a fundraiser, and maybe a bunch of people donated blocks for the fundraiser, and maybe if they donated tools, somebody made up the blocks for that, because there are some blocks that have tools on them. I'm not sure if I'll use the tools because I'm not really very mechanically inclined, so I don't really know I wouldn't necessarily be able to recognize all the tools, and so maybe I'll put something else instead of the tools, but I don't have to worry about that now. Because there's such a variety of blocks in here, it really wouldn't look out of place if I just found a pattern somewhere else and just added it to the quilt. And I don't remember if I had the same problem last year. I don't know if I was using used fabric already or if I started fresh, but either way. Okay, so now I have the pattern. And again, the biggest thing is to make sure that you're facing everything the right way. So if I put the fabric this way, then it'll look right when I'm done. That's the theory anyway I'm going with. Okay. So now I just need to make sure I pin this down securely in a place where I'm going to get good use of this fusible. Here is good. And I like to just pin this so that I can make sure that it stays in place while I'm cutting. In the block as well as on the outside of the paper. Put one on the 5. Okay, quality inspection, it looks like it's all straight. I've got pins. Maybe I need one on this side. Okay. Okay, so I think there's enough pins in here. Maybe the 7 needs a pin too. Okay, now I'm ready. So I'm just going to cut this shape out best as I can. These shapes out. Pretty sure I have the, yeah, I do. Okay. Try not to smooth it out too much and keep as many of the bumps in here as possible. Okay. And it's perfectly fine if you don't go exactly on the line, because it is a pretty loose design. So for me, this is fine as a 1. If that bothers you, you can go ahead and just make sure that you're cutting exactly on the line and tracing more carefully than I did. But again, it's just fine. Okay, that's 1. Next one. And I'm keeping all of these bigger pieces here so that I can use them in a different part of the quilt. Because even though they're small, there are some small applique pieces in here that I can easily use that fabric. And if it's uncomfortable for you to be working on this bigger piece, you can just cut out the shape. You can just cut out like an outline first, and then work on the details of cutting out each of the pieces out. Like this, you just cut it out, and then you can work on it with less bulk and less extra fabric. Okay, so this stays, this goes. Okay. And then I can cut out the circles. Now for this one, I'd like to just try to keep it as big as possible. So I'm going to keep my excess, stay close to the line here so that I can use this middle piece for something else. And technically I didn't need to make another copy, because unless I'm going to make this quilt again, which I don't think so. I don't normally repeat quilts. So again, I'm keeping the fabric, throwing away the paper. Another one here. Oops, I cut into the shape, I think. I'm going to have to make this circle a little bit bigger to incorporate this little boo-boo. Okay, looks good. Guess it'd be 18. And fusible applique is really fast and forgiving because the shape has so many, because these little numbers and flowers and everything do have little pieces, which is probably not for a beginner, just because you have to go around each of the shapes with your sewing machine. And I guess technically you don't have to, but The fusible should be able to stay, but I guess I haven't really tried to make something without, I haven't tried to wash anything with fusible that hasn't been secured down with stitching. So I don't know, I don't trust it to stay. But you could easily do some all over quilting. That would keep you from having to stitch down each corner. The piece wouldn't fall out, but maybe some of it might pull up from the corners. So I would secure down everything. Personally, I would like to secure everything down just to be sure that it stays. I'll throw the pins in my way to this block, this one. I think the smoother the shape is, the easier it'll be to sew down. And so it'd be easy to adapt the pattern to not have it have so many turns. Okay, so here's the 1857. I can add some red flowers. There's 4 little flowers that are made with the red. Thinking I should, because the flowers are so small, I should try to use a piece of fabric that's smaller, just because I can make better use of it. So this red fabric, I think I can use one. I'd rather save my fusible and my fabric if I can. Okay, so this one is one of these. Go ahead and pin it down just to be. Even though the pin's going to be in my way pretty much from the beginning. Another option is just to cut out a shape that's similar to this. I don't really need to be perfect, so I could just cut out the shape without worrying about whether it's exactly the same as this one. Four. I think I can do 2 out of this shape. My video cut out so you didn't see all of them, but I think you get the basic idea. Okay, so now all I have to do is to put these shapes onto the background fabric. So now it's just a matter of arranging the numbers and the shapes around the line. Okay, and then to put them on the fabric itself, you would take out the paper. This is the pattern. This is the paper behind the fusible. And then place it where you want to place it in your block. There are markers in the pattern that show you where the center of the block is, so you can make sure that your pattern is properly centered. And now look at that. And you can also use your pattern as your guide. Once you are cut out the shapes, you can put the pattern on the back, figure out where the center of your fabric is, and then just use this as a guide. You can see where the 5 is here. And peel off the paper, keep the fusible on the back of the fabric. And the nice thing about this fusible is that it sticks to your fabric, so it keeps things where you put them, but it's not permanent until you press it down. So you can, like here, this is not properly arranged, so I can easily just move it out. So it stays for now, but then when I'm ready to move it to a different place, I can fix that. And then once I'm really happy with where everything is, then I can fuse it down. And because people are not going to be able to see where the original pattern was exactly, they don't have the pattern, they're not going to have this paper behind them, so they won't know that the 7 is at a place where even though you can see the line here, if I put the 7 here, I could leave it there without any problems, because they're not going to have the pattern and nobody's going to be looking at it that carefully to see that, you know, you have some of these wrong. So what I like to do is just to decide where I want things to be. I don't have to make things exactly the way the pattern had them. And see, this one fell apart because it was so skinny. I can just put them right next to each other and I'll be just fine. Applique is really very forgiving because, especially if you're using shapes like this, applique is very forgiving, especially if you're using nature shapes, if you're using plants or animals. Our male is here. And if you'd rather have something someplace else that's not in the pattern, or if you'd like to add extra leaves or flowers or whatever, you can do that because it's your quilt and you can decide where everything goes. So there's my 1857 block. I think I've gotten all of the pieces in place. I might just arrange this a little bit to make sure everything is centered. Once I have everything laid out the way I want it to be, I'm going to press it so that'll keep the fusible in place, that'll keep the fabric in place, and then I can easily stitch it down with the sewing machine. I hope that you enjoyed seeing the progress on this 1857 applique quilt, and that you had a chance to sew for at least 15 minutes today, to take some time out for yourself to do something creative. This video is one of a series of videos where I invite you to my quilting room and see what I'm working on for my 15 minutes to quilt, and I hope that you had a chance to sew along with me so that you can enter to win for prizes. I'm giving away 2 copies of a book that I wrote especially for quilters, and I really think that you're going to find it very useful. There's 2 ways that you can enter to win. The first way is to sew along with me for 15 minutes, and if you did that, just leave a comment to let me know what you worked on today, and you'll be entered to win that prize. The second way is simply to just watch this video, and if you did that, just let me know in the comments something that happened in the video today. It's really heartwarming to see all of the projects that you were working on and how much you're getting done in your 15 minutes to sew. I'm glad that it's providing motivation for you. Don't forget that we have a Facebook page where you can show what projects you're working on. I put a link to yesterday's video here in case you missed that. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all of your support, and I'll see you in the next video.